President Biden gave his first remarks on the mysterious drones in the U.S. East Coast Wednesday night, saying, "There's nothing to worry about." Let's watch.
Nothing nefarious, apparently, but they're checking it all out. I think it's just one. There's a lot of drones authorized up there. I think one started and they all got it. Everybody wanted to get in the deal. But we're following it closely. So far, no sense of danger.
That made a lot of sense. Nothing to see here, I guess, is what he's saying. Lawmakers not so convinced. House Intelligence received a classified briefing on the matter earlier this week, with Ranking Member Jim Himes insisting this is not a government operation. Just this morning, the Federal Aviation Administration issued a ban on drone operations in several areas of New Jersey until January 17th. For weeks now, unmanned aerial drones have been lighting up the night sky in New Jersey and in part of New York. They've even been spotted as far down as Maryland. Though the officials and Biden seem to have been brushing it off, our next guest isn't so sure. Here to discuss is independent journalist Michael Shellenberger. Welcome back to Rising, Michael. Always great to see you.
Great to see you, Robbie.
And I've seen you talking about this issue on some other news programs as well. So for my part, it's two things. This is my guess, and then I'll get your reaction. I do think in some cases people are just seeing, we have evidence of this, planes, other things that are in the sky. There are, common misconceptions, and for that reason, people should be careful about, just shining lasers at planes or taking even more aggressive actions. That explains some of it, but also there are clearly drones operating up there that I suspect are in fact part of a federal defense program. I do not think they are likely to be foreign and hostile. I think if they were, the government would be more freaked out about it. But the lack of transparency here is alarming to some people and is not a good thing. That's what I think. What say you?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that stand out for me. The first is just the dishonesty of government officials. It was really weird last week for both Mayorkas, the head of DHS, and John Kirby, an important Defense Department spokesperson, they actually outright denied that there had been drone sightings or reports of drones over U.S. military bases or other sensitive sites. No one asked them about that. They literally went out and said that affirmatively, and Kirby repeated it. Bizarre, because there's been a ton of news coverage, including a major Wall Street Journal article from November, just last month, about Langley Air Force Base, for example, in Virginia, being buzzed by drones they couldn't control for 17 days. The list is now 24 military bases and other sensitive sites where you're not allowed to fly drones over them, where you have had these drone reports. So setting aside definitely a lot of mistaken identities, people seeing, jet planes and thinking they're drones. You have, the United States Air Force and the United States military having the greatest visual, view of everything in our airspace, controlling the airspace being a high national security priority for the last 80 years. And then for them to sort of say, I think the other weird thing is then they go, well, we're looking into it, and then they say, well, we've looked into it, and we're still looking into it, but we're sure there's no problem. But of course, we haven't identified them all, but we know there's no risk. It's a very relaxed attitude towards invasions of airspace above military and sensitive sites. So in some ways, there's almost it's just so strange to see people being so blasé about this. You can't help but wonder if they do know what it is, are not telling us for some reason. We have seen, obviously, a huge amount of secrecy on the broader issue of unidentified anomalous phenomena or aerial phenomenon. So I think this, for me, just looks like another case of where the government isn't being entirely transparent about things it can't explain in the sky.
I hear what you're saying. I think that there is, on a personal note, I think this is much ado about nothing. When we have a government that is working we know that drones are going to be utilized more in terms of military combatant forces than we've probably ever seen before. That is the new wave. With that being said, they're probably not announcing because they don't want the entire world to know how they collect certain types of information. They think that the government has done that for quite some time with various forms of instruments that have collected sensitive information. Because you have so many people who are reporting seeing these drones and it coming back that wasn't what it was. It was constellations. It was Orion's belt. Folks who clearly don't look up at the sky very often. Don't you believe that some of this is driving more in the conspiracy theory vein than it is actual caution or belief that something scary or something extraterrestrial is actually happening out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the interesting parts of it is that in the vacuum of information and the government's unwillingness to share more, you've seen a flood of conspiracy theories. The most disturbing of which is the idea of a loose nuclear warhead or some radioactive device. That is a bad conspiracy theory for people to be spreading because it could lead to people panicking, getting in their cars, driving, stockpiling. Interestingly enough, we haven't seen that. So, I mean, I think to all credit to the people of New Jersey, people say, oh, there's a panic. Not really, not like there was, for example, when, after COVID, where you saw people stockpiling or behaving in ways that could be dangerous. But I think that's another reason why you just need the government to share more information. They claimed that over, somewhere between 5 and 6,000 sightings were reported and that they investigated all of them. I asked for the data. I'm like, great, can you just share the information on those sightings? I don't think they have to reveal specifically how they do those sightings. I think a lot of the ways in which we observe what's going on are not super secret. Radar's obviously a very old technology. We also just have videos and human sighting. So, I mean, I think that it's just weird that there's not more transparency on this. You saw Trump get up, a couple of days ago in a press conference and said they should be releasing it. He asserted that they did know what it was. A reporter then asked him, have you been briefed on this? And he said, I'm not going to answer the question, but in fact, our sources, but other news media too, have reported that, of course, Trump is getting a national security briefing. I don't have any confirmation that he got a briefing on this, but you would think, particularly since the drones were being spotted over his golf course in New Jersey, Bedminster, you would think there was some sort of briefing. So, I mean, look, it's just a funny time right now. We have a president that's not completely there. We have spokespersons that are like openly lying and then contradicting themselves a couple days later. Clearly, we're in a transitionary period. We've got an incoming administration that appears they want more transparency and disclosure on this, and I think that's what we're all waiting for.
And we also have a Congress that seems just as in the dark as anyone else. The speculation from various members of Congress on both sides of the political aisles that someone said, I think it was a Republican who said these were coming from an Iranian mothership. Somebody talking about Russia, people talking about China. It alarms me a little bit, the idea that, and I get that there are some things that federal government, that defense, et cetera, have to keep secret. I don't think they should start leaking the names or locations of spies we have embedded in foreign countries or something like that. But it is still a little concerning to me as a civil liberties-minded person that there would just be a vast federal intelligence defense bureaucracy that knows exactly what's going on and is, not elected or accountable in any direct way to the American people. And meanwhile, you have the actual elected representatives who are just like, yeah, it's Iran or it's China or it's, I don't know, maybe it's aliens. And like the people we actually have some oversight over have no idea and are totally left in the dark and don't seem to care all that much.
Well, yeah, that's right. And of course, Article 1 of the Constitution requires that Congress provide oversight to the military. It means the military must be more transparent. They're very frustrated. I testified in front of the Congress on the unidentified anomalous phenomena issue last month. And first of all, it was refreshing because Democrats and Republicans are actually completely aligned on the issue. My sense was from the members of that committee, they're very open to the idea that this could be non-human intelligence or it could be some sort of disinformation effort. But I mean, this effort to shut down the conversation is so striking. The only reason you would want to suggest that they're not over military bases and there's absolutely nothing going on and we've cleared all the anomalies, the only reason you would make such obviously false statements like that is because you just don't want to have to answer any more questions about what's been going on. So, yeah, I mean, I just think we're at a point now where I think we would make more hay of it if it weren't just, a couple of weeks away from a new administration coming in. But I think the great thing about this entire, what we call a flap, a UFO or UAP flap in terms of the drones, is that it seems like it's creating a kind of pace for greater transparency at a time when I think the pressure does need to increase on the Trump administration and his nominees who have promised transparency on everything from, Jeffrey Epstein to the Russiagate hoax to COVID origins to UAPs to the Kennedy file. We could be looking at I don't want to get everybody's hopes up, although I think we should have high expectations. We should be looking at a golden age of transparency, just a few weeks away.
Yes, indeed. Michael Shellenberger, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you guys.